So welcome. I'm Elizabeth Thielen. I am the Interim Executive Director at M-WERC. If I haven't met you before, please reach out to me and we can meet virtually. I'd actually be willing to meet in person with a cup of coffee. Also, for those of you who are used to Alan or Dan, Alan is still with us. He's our what do we call him? Founder Emeritus, and he's also working on special projects with us for the Navy Tech Center and other transitioning. Dan Ebert is also still with us. He is our Senior Strategic Advisor and working on a lot of research and innovation projects. And though he was listed as our moderator today, he actually had a family emergency, so he will not be with us. So if you read our newsletter that came out in December, we talked a lot about, 2020 had a lot of information about who's essential and who isn't. And clearly energy is essential, right? Energy is essential. Change is essential. So business had to change, you had to change. And Emily, if you're tracking with the slides, go ahead. And we also think, and the whole point of this member meeting today is about growth through innovation, and that is clearly essential. Earlier, when we were talking before the meeting officially started, we were talking about Texas, and that has given us a focus of how much energy is essential and the decisions that we make, and how important it is to have a reliable grid and new technology, new innovations, and figuring that out. So as you think about the agenda and you hear speakers today, we're going to have 2 networking sessions, and one of them you'll get to discuss these kinds of concepts specifically around innovation. So the other thing I want to cover is come on camera when you can, use the chat, talk to people. Part of member meetings is networking with people. So go ahead, just make sure you're not maybe sending it to everyone. If you want to send a message privately, you got to pick the right person. Come on, if you want to talk, I would say put a question in the chat or raise your hand. There will be opportunities for that, or just throw the question in and we'll figure it out. Emily will be putting in links also in the chat for our next meetings and demo day and things like that. So thank you again for joining us. And most importantly, you have to meet our team. We've got an awesome team at M-WERC. I've been here for about a year. So going around the horn here on who's who, and there's Emily Ott. She is running the show behind the scenes as always. She's our project coordinator. Then Michael Hansen with the long year. He's our director of operations. And Vito Gervasi, if I pronounced your last name right, is our lab manager. And there's Alan and Terry. So this is a picture from our holiday party celebrating Alan at the end of last year. And then myself with a magic wand, Mariella Paz, who's also on, she's our project manager and research. Bruce Byhoff, for those of you who know him, not only is he brilliant, he's absolutely hilarious. So he thoroughly dressed up for the party. Jacqueline Davidson, our managing director for talent. Nate Conroy is our director for market insights. Dan Ebert, and then Owen Liebelt. He is no longer with us, but the good news is he's actually in the family still, and he's working with Advanced Ionics, and they have space and they use our prototyping lab right here at M-WERC. So welcome team. Go team, you better be on camera. All right, our agenda. In case you didn't see our agenda, I'm just giving some opening remarks, kind of giving some context, talk a little bit about M-WERC and some updates. Then Maria Redmond, our director for the State of Office and Clean Energy, is going to share the plan. We'll take a question or 2 at the end or network with her after. Bruce Byhoff is going to talk about our research model for about 5 minutes, may take a question there, and then we're also going to welcome A.O. Smith and Eaton into an industry panel about why should we do more of these collaborations together, and when is it smart to do it and maybe not so smart to do it. Then we'll have a small group innovation networking. We're going to give you a specific question/sentence to answer and introduce yourself, so at least you walk away meeting somebody. And if you can stay, we have a second networking session, which will be fantastic. I would encourage you to stay. You get a little avatar, you go around and meet people. And also you can test out a new system for any meetings that you might be running in the future. So in case you don't know M-WERC, M-WERC actually stays focused in 3 initiatives: technology innovation, market insights, and talent development. And this is straight off of our website. So M-WERC is the driving force behind energy, power, and controls clusters. As the old BASF commercial, we don't make energy, power, and controls, but we make it better by bringing together this robust ecosystem with deep roots in the early days of Wisconsin manufacturing, and now challenging all of ourselves to go forward. Some updates quickly, our market insights, and I introduced Nate. I think he's on camera still. He's forming even a new work group leadership council, and that's focused on thought leadership projects and events that you'll be hearing about in the next month or two. And those people who, like Chet, who's on, Tim Bay, they are all part of that working group council. At talent development, Jacqueline leads that. She's actually in the corner of my screen right now. Smile, Jacqueline, hi. She's been with M-WERC for several years, 4 years, and runs our workbench labs. So we're in our 6th cohort. That's an accelerator in energy, power, and controls. And mark this down in your calendar, and Emily will put it in the chat, the link, but April 20th is our demo day. So you can see the new cohort, and we have a lot of other alumni who are around. I know Chad is on from Advanced Ionics, or he said he'd be in and out. Also, we started in COVID. During COVID, we started an electrical assembly program. People came in, safely distanced, we had plastic. We went through all the motions all of you have gone through in trying to open in this nutty year. And we are now looking at graduation at the end of March for our electrical assembly. And we are going to expand and talk about clean energy technician. And we'll be talking to a lot of our members. What are your needs and what gap do we need to fill? So a bit of history about M-WERC is, there's a great video out there if you haven't seen it. It's long, so I would love to show it here, but it's like 7 minutes long. But there's also one of my favorite books, and I even have it with me. Not only is it on screen, I have it with me. The Magnificent Machines of Milwaukee by Tom Fearing. And it basically goes through the history of our innovators and inventors in Milwaukee, and it's truly amazing. And we still have it here today. At the end of the book, he puts in these innovation insights and talks about the importance of collaboration, the importance of collisions. So being at events like this, talking in the chat, going to the networking sessions, so that you can find the people you need and connect with them. Perseverance. Obviously, I think that's a great competency of us all, I'll just say in the Midwest, even the United States, but perseverance. The other one he talked about is incentives. And this was interesting. So Edward Alice of Alice Chalmers had put in an incentive for his engineers to, if you developed a patent, you could put your name on it. And that was really unheard of years ago, that you could put your name on it. The company always took the patent, right? I don't know, different companies do it different ways today, but that actually was instrumental in forming new companies. He also talks about team and the importance of team. Another book is, for those of you who read a lot of books, like Jim Collins' Good to Great, talks a lot about getting the right people on the bus. And that was the picture of our team here at M-WERC. We have the right people on the bus to drive M-WERC going forward, and looking at your own teams, and also in innovation and research. And then, of course, having that entrepreneurial culture. And I would say it has grown by tremendously in the last 5 years. We've always had an entrepreneurial culture here in Milwaukee, there's no doubt, but all the groups and the accelerators, including Workbench Labs, has expanded that, and then providing those collisions. And then, of course, my favorite, avoid complacency. We have to keep working at it to drive some innovation. So M-WERC's mission around this is actually around driving a science and technology ecosystem. So as this ecosystem comes up on your screen, think about, where are you in this? Are you a college or university? Are you part of industry? Are you part of multiple? Maybe you're an investor and you're a community member, non-governmental organization, or part of government. All of us need to work together and collaborate and pick smart partnerships. So if you think of your part in that hexagon, so I happen to love rocks, so I actually brought 3 of them today. This one's from Alaska. A friend of mine knows that I love rocks, so she actually carried one home from Alaska. And think of your section as a rock, and if you drop it into the water, you're trying to have an impact and a ripple effect, right? So you want to have a ripple effect. But if you partner up and that whole hexagon and ecosystem, you dropped into the water and we had massive impact. That's what we're going for in our science, technology, innovation ecosystem. And all of us are part of that. There's many people on this call right now who are in organizations driving that. Specifically, we're focused on energy, power, and controls, but you think about technology in Wisconsin, that's a major mission. And Maria will talk specifically about the state's plan. So if we choose smart partnering and we work together, I like to think of it as a massive ripple effect. So here's our ripple effect. You might just be the small little rock poking in and you're having your impact, but when there's times to partner together and come together and do collaboration around pre-competitive research, developing new centers of technology, that's what we're doing here at M-WERC to do that. And I know that Maria is going to talk about the plan for the state to have a massive ripple effect. So welcome, Maria. And she is the director of the Wisconsin Office of Sustainability. She's been working for the state for about 19 years. You can look up her bio. She can introduce a little bit about herself, but one thing we have in common is she has a bachelor's degree in psychology, and so do I. I also have a master's in psychology. So welcome, Maria, and please share your plan for the state, and then everybody think about how you can engage.
Thank you. Just a quick sound check. You hearing me okay? Okay, good.
Hear you.
Okay. Excellent, excellent. So thank you so much for the invitation to come speak with you today. I always enjoy member meetings and being able to engage with folks. For those of you who don't know me, a lot of you do, my name is Maria Redmond, and I currently serve as the director of the Office of Sustainability and Clean Energy for the state of Wisconsin. And actually, I have been in this position for over a year now, but I have been working on energy issues for the state for about 20 years. And so it's been an exciting ride. I've been working across multiple administrations, multiple directives, but I just really enjoy the work that I do, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what we can accomplish over the next few years. So I was asked to come to talk today about how the state of Wisconsin is working to advance innovation, research, creativity, and collaboration. And when I was preparing my remarks, it brought me back to thinking about key words that we use to describe our work. Green, clean, innovative, sustainable, equitable. I'm going to take advantage of the chat, and if you could describe your work in one word, what would that be? Put that in there, because I'd love to see that after I'm done with my presentation. If I was coordinated enough, I probably would have been able to do like a word cloud or something, but we'll just go with that because I'd love to see what people's thoughts are on that. But it's not just about the words, it's about the meaning behind the words. And like, what does fill in the blank mean? Like, what does equitable mean? What does innovative mean? A few years ago, when I was working in a different role, I asked my staff to define innovation from their perspective. And I want to read one of the responses to you because I think it's really insightful. Being innovative means to be able to find creative solutions to existing problems, taking a different path than others to accomplish the same goal by seeing the problem from a perspective different from the prevailing perspective. It could also mean being able to identify problems that go overlooked and that others didn't consider, and taking initiative to solve those problems. Overall, innovation is inventive, creative, and most importantly, practical. It's coming up with ideas or solutions that can be applied in the real world to keep us on a trajectory towards a better future. I just thought that was really inspiring and really describes well the path that we're on today to move forward to a clean energy economy and address climate change here in Wisconsin. And so those words really define the movement of what's happening here in the state. And we're fortunate to have leadership that are supportive and champions for this work. So in 2019, Governor Evers and Lieutenant Governor Barnes set us on a path forward by creating the Office of Sustainability and Clean Energy to direct this office to help fight the effects of climate change through programs and policies that support the use of clean energy resources and technologies, and specifically set a goal for us to reach 100% carbon-free electricity consumed by 2050. And then later in 2019, Governor Evers created the Governor's Task Force on Climate Change to help us develop a strategy to mitigate and adapt to the effects of climate change for the benefit of all Wisconsin citizens. So Evers and Barnes asked us all to roll up our sleeves and to work collaboratively, center our work on environmental justice, generate ideas and solutions that create a pathway to multi-sector, deep decarbonization, and a bustling clean energy economy that supports diverse workforce and technology innovation. So we spent a lot of the last year coordinating the work of the Governor's Task Force on Climate Change to address the importance of reducing the impacts of climate change on Wisconsin citizens. So over the last year, we pulled I shouldn't say I did it, the Lieutenant Governor's Office and Governor's Office pulled together a diverse bipartisan coalition of task force members, 32 of those folks, to develop 55 climate solutions that span 9 sectors. That report was published in December of 2020 and is available at climatechange.wi.gov. And really, the idea was to lead by science, prioritize environmental justice and community voice, and the recommendations lay the foundation for the state to better adapt to and mitigate the effects of climate change, while also seeking economic opportunities in renewable energy and conservation. And as many of you know, last week the governor announced his biennial executive budget, and it's exciting to see that a lot of the recommendations that were outlined in the climate task force work were highlighted in his biennial budget. And he made it clear that as we recover from a public health crisis and an economic crisis, transitioning to a clean energy economy and investing in renewable energy can provide much needed relief to the state by stimulating the economy, attracting new businesses, and creating new jobs. So just a couple of highlights from the budget I thought to share. The creation of the Office of Environmental Justice. This office will work collaboratively with my office and across state agencies to engage environmental justice advocates, communities of color, Native nations, and low-income communities to design climate policies that reduce emissions and pollutants and address the cumulative and deadly impact of the concentration of pollutants in those communities. Also, super exciting, a development of a new $4 million renewable energy and clean energy research grant that would be run out of my office. I'm super excited about that and to see if that sticks and what we can do with that program. Establishment of the role of a chief resilience officer to oversee the development and execution of state and local climate risk assessment and resilience plans. Expand the use of green procurement practices, so setting the state up to be lead by example. That's super important as we continue to tell others that we need to make change. We need to be making changes internally as well, and that's something that we're working on diligently. Establishing an innovative technologies program at the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin to look at opportunities for deploying and piloting innovative technologies, and then doubling the funding for focus on energy. And honestly, the list goes on. I think we counted like 28 different clean energy related or economic development type measures that are listed out. And as we all know, it has to go through budget process, and some things stick and some things don't. So one of the other things I want to, as the budget is taken up for consideration, we're also working on a clean energy plan for the state. And we have a diverse group of about 45 organizations, including utilities, advocates, community groups, groups representing communities of color, tribal nations, state agencies, the list goes on as well for that. We're all collectively working on a clean energy plan for the state. And in December, we started out with this really long list of strategies that was built off existing work related to, that was already done in strategic planning to look at deep decarbonization across multiple sectors. And so the Great Plains Institute, Mid-Continent sector roadmaps related to transportation and electricity, the Wisconsin Energy Distribution Technology Initiative recommendations, some recommendations that come from the U.S. Climate Alliance. Like there's, what we try to do is say, look, we don't have to start from scratch. There's so much great work that's already happened. How can we bring that all together and create a plan for the state and create that actionable plan, a pathway forward to get things done, and not just to have it be a crusty, dusty document on the shelf, but actually something that creates a framework for ongoing planning into the future that has longevity and can withstand change in time, technology, and administrations. So the other, let's see here, after we received a bunch of input from folks, and after mapping out what needs to get done and how we can make it happen, we came up with a list of right now it's about 22 recommendations driven by the need to achieve major and expeditious movement in 3 broad strategies. So increasing efficiencies, zero emission renewable generation, and electrification across multiple sectors. So we still have room for more additions. We're seeking continued advice in this process, and we'll be hosting listening sessions in March. And we'll also be updating our website to encourage input at any time. Now, mind you, I would love to have everybody on my advisory team for this, but as these teams grow, it becomes a little unwieldy. So I want to encourage people, if you're not engaged in the advisory team or on the existing teams, that doesn't mean that you can't be involved in the process. I'm trying to make sure that we're hearing as many voices and we're getting as many people involved as possible. And just to highlight some of the categories of recommendations, I'm certainly can get into this a little bit more with you later. I only have like 10 minutes, so I can't read the whole document to you, but the different sectors that we're looking at, or kind of categories we're looking at, are environmental justice and equitable economic development, looking at the power sector, buildings and industrial, and transportation. And so a couple of examples is in environmental justice and equitable economic development, like focusing on low-income customers, improving project financing options, working with local governments, exploring the use of natural working lands and agricultural lands, and expanding workforce development. Power sector, looking at energy storage, new generation, transmission, renewable energy, innovation, collaboration, and data. Buildings and industrial energy efficiency, updating building codes, looking at the opportunities in the industrial sector and focusing on the industrial sector, and also looking at building electrification. And then transportation is transportation electrification, look at our opportunities for electric vehicles, clean fuels policy, looking at a low carbon fuel standard and what opportunities are there, smart growth and active transportation. It's just some really high level overview of what we're looking at as part of the clean energy plan right now. But again, there's room to grow. And so I welcome you to continue to work with my office and the state agencies to pursue innovative, inclusive, and forward-leaning actions that reduce greenhouse gas emissions, prepare us for the ongoing impacts of climate change, to achieve environmental justice and create economic opportunities here in Wisconsin. And it's clear that we can't continue to operate as business as usual. It's also clear that there are organizations such as M-WERC and others that are leaders in technology innovation, and that we want to leverage the work that you're doing and leverage the strategies that you're working on with what our statewide work looks like. And sync up everything so that we're working collaboratively and we're headed in the same direction and complementing each other along the way. So what we're experiencing, seeing the effects of on people and communities related to the pandemic, or watching what's happening with extreme weather events, or experiencing them ourselves around the country that are wiping out our existing systems. And like more and more, we're seeing that we have to make change. And so there is so much opportunity to build resilience, to be a leader in the transition to the clean energy economy. And so I just really want to encourage us all to work together on ideas and implementation strategies and solutions to get this work done, and really think about what can be applied in the real world to keep us on a trajectory towards a better future. You're on mute. I see your mouth moving, but.
Elizabeth, you're talking, I think, but you're on mute.
All right, I'm back. Maria, we have a quick question for you. The $4 million fund you were talking about, did I get that right? Can you speak a little bit to that? And when is that already out? When will we see it?
Yeah, so it's proposed as part of the governor's biennial budget. And so
Oh,
we'll have
okay.
to go through the budget process, right? We will, it's part of an environmental fund, and they would transition those dollars over to the office to be able to support research and development in clean energy and in this area that we're working in. So we won't know if that basically sticks and if it's approved until the budget passes. And so if that's something that you're interested in and want to make sure it passes, it's important for you to talk to your legislators and talk to those who are making the decisions on if that would move forward. And so if it does move forward, usually the budget passes and we start to do implementation on budget initiatives in July. So it wouldn't be probably available till probably the end of the year or early next year if it is approved.
Okay, great. Thanks for the tip. Any other parting remarks for our audience about clean energy and growth, and particularly, innovation and research, besides a fund that we hope passes?
Yeah, no, I just think keep up the good work and continue the communication with my office and continue this collaborative effort, because I have an overview of everything that's happening in the state, but I want to make sure that like the programs and initiatives that we're working on, I have all the agencies engaged in this work, which is super exciting and something that I think, other states look to Wisconsin, and when there are these opportunities and we need to engage with agencies, that they're at the ready to help. And I'm trying to figure out how to leverage our current programs, because I understand that like budgets are tight, there's a lot of pull for resources. And so leveraging what we have, increasing communication, and just being engaged as much as possible with you is super important. So I think if I can leave anything is like, let's keep up the great work and continue to share what you're doing, and let's continue to meet on this so that we can complement each other's work, and I can ensure that the resources that are coming from the state, and I didn't even mention what's happening on the federal level, super exciting, and just making sure that we can take advantage of all the support that we're getting right now as it relates to clean energy and climate change.
Awesome. Thank you. Hopefully you're sticking around. I don't know if you are, but if
Yeah,
you are, join us.
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I will.
Okay,
Yeah,
great. So maybe
Elizabeth,
somebody, yes.
Elizabeth, are you allowing questions from the audience?
Well, if you have one, I'll take it from you, Steve.
I do, but I didn't know if anybody else had one as well. I should let them go first.
No, you go first, because I would say put it in the chat, everybody, but Steve, go ahead. Steve is the chair of our board here at M-WERC for Mayo Smith, so.
So Maria, I have one sort of question. You talked about reduction of greenhouse gas emissions in Wisconsin and the Midwest. Are there any plans to ever, do something like California and maybe control greenhouse gas emissions through tightening of the building codes like they do via Title 24 in California? Is there any sort of plan to do that, do you know, or not?
So one thing we have to do is just update our building codes. So I think that's, we're super behind on our building code updates. So that's one thing, but certainly we have engaged our Department of Safety and Professional Services to see like what we can do while we're updating the codes and see what we can build in to be more bold. So I think there is room for that, but we're just kind of trying to figure out like, what are the immediate steps that we need to take to get up to date and to get, just to be able to do what we want to do in the current space. But I think being forward thinking is super important. And we look to California a lot for examples. And while they're not apples to apples, certainly that's worth exploring.
Okay, there's two more questions. Thank you, Steve. Or at least, will you support, you can give yes, no's and short answers. Will you support third-party solar? Good one, Charles.
Yeah, so we're exploring that. There's a lot of discussions around that. And so what we're trying to figure out is in the clean energy plan, because we want to make it actionable, what is the actionable item that we need to, again, near term address now? And I think it's about decision points. Who makes the decision on that? And how can we use the clean energy plan as a tool to get to that decision? So we're kind of scoping that out now and figuring out like what's the best approach for the clean energy plan. And then how do we use that that is a tool to keep momentum and be able to address that issue.
Okay, another, where'd that question go? For Maria, let's see, I just lost it. One more here. So from Stephen, what do you recommend for municipalities that have sustainability committees that do accelerate the electrification of our communities?
Yeah, so one thing in our clean energy plan is I've built in a local government and increasing local government engagement so that we can, again, line up resources and also figure out like what are the barriers to deploying certain technologies and certain efforts. And so we have Nanda Wall from the League of Municipalities who's been participating on the advisory team, but certainly we'd love to see some more feedback on what we can do to position the state and kind of alleviate some of the issues that you're experiencing on the local level. Also trying to incorporate, again, recognizing that everything happens on a local level. So ensuring that we understand what your goals are so that we can sync that up with the state resources and kind of funnel things and again, I say sync a lot, but connect the dots and make sure that you're
align.
There you go. I have to like go to my synonym and figure out some new words, but. Yeah.
Okay, one more, because I'd like to know the answer to this, and then we'll transition to Bruce. But what do you see as the role of energy storage going forward in Wisconsin?
There's a huge role for energy storage. We actually have a recommendation in our list right now specifically related to energy storage. So we want to, there's a lot of opportunities to be more resilient with energy storage. It also is potentially helping us to get to sort of that last 20% of like, there's always this discussion about how are we going to get to 100? And so there's a lot of opportunity with energy storage to be a part of like getting to that final 100. Because with current practices and current initiatives with the utilities and everything that we're doing, probably could get to like 80% if we did everything today, right? So I think energy storage plays a big role. It's how quickly we move forward with energy storage. So we're looking at like maybe setting up a specific goal, like setting a certain percentage of deployment of energy storage in the state to help expedite the deployment of energy storage and expedite the development of technology and deployment of technology in this space.
All right, I was going to cut that off. I'm sorry, Keenan. I saw your question, but we need to move on. Thank you, Maria. Keenan, just reach out to her either in the chat directly and ask a question or email. Thank you, Maria. So as we vision all this plans, not only for M-WERC, but all of you as partners and the state of Wisconsin that Maria is leading, I'd like to introduce Bruce Byoff, I call him our Chief Technology Officer, Chief Humorist Officer. He's brilliant and he's funny, but he's going to talk about our research model at M-WERC. Bruce, are you there?
And I'm unmuting.
Awesome. Welcome, Bruce.
Welcome. So how do you want me to point at things? Are you going to give me the baton or?
Emily will do it. You just have a couple slides, so.
Okay.
Go ahead, Emily.
I'm Bruce Byoff. Almost everyone knows me. 48 years in the industry, 8 years at the university. So I am an old guy and I have recently retired from the university, but I am doing some consulting and I still consult as the technology innovation director for M-WERC. So that's my reason for being here. Many of you know me because I'm also consulting for things at the university as well, but primarily moving into a role where I get to speak my mind a lot more. But in a promise to Elizabeth, I won't speak my mind too much, just enough this morning. So in light of that, let's talk about the change in research model that we're on the path we're working towards. The next slide here, you will see, first I have to make an apology to Tom Fearing. He was mentioned. I'm afraid it's not the great machines of Milwaukee up here in the top, it's the magnificent machines of Milwaukee. So somehow that didn't, so I apologize to Tom. Tom and I are old friends, he'd understand. In his book that Elizabeth mentions, he notes how much innovation has been part of Wisconsin. And the red area highlighted here is actually where the book covers. And so he covers maybe an era where many of the most famous names of some of Wisconsin's past really had their first big innovations. And then there's this book yet to be written, which is on the right-hand side. And kind of interesting because it really talks about some pretty important things most people don't know about, such as the integrated circuit was invented here in Milwaukee by Central Lab. Thick film circuits were invented here. First production of thick film circuits was at Allen Bradley and 2nd Street. Automated machining centers, flow batteries, building management systems, PLCs, you name it. We did the, I'm not sure if that got taken off here somehow, but we did the first integrated circuit, or the IC missile guidance at AC Delco. We did the first integrated circuit-based missile guidance system on the planet right here in Wisconsin, down in Oak Creek. So we've had a lot of innovations since we're the book, The Magnificent Machines in Milwaukee. And because we're on that active, we're still putting pages into that book. What I want to talk about is what M-WERC is moving towards to help us to keep that science and technology driven innovation engine going. But the key thing about this slide is we shouldn't be afraid of being out innovated by all the big names. The good thing about the stuff we've done is generally we build really great innovations that are strong and durable. And above all, they really fill mission critical roles in people's lives. People trust our innovations to deliver some of the most important things in their lives. So next slide. So we have a new model, and for lack of a better term, it's an old term, but it's a new term. It's called a tech center. So first, let's just frame, how we view the system in science and technology integration working. On the left-hand side are all the people who have aspirins, and on the right-hand side, all the people who have headaches. And generally, it can be summed up. We try to create aspirins and match people's headaches, and so generally that's what we do. But the gap in the middle, how do we actually get the right aspirin to the right headaches, has always been the question of science, technology, and innovation, always. So over years, working with our members, literally working with them, asking them questions over a 5-6 year period, we asked how could we better fill the gap between where the aspirins were and where the headaches were. And we went through many, and we started out with something where we said we have to form some fundamental focus areas that work on the key challenging problems. And you'll see that big block on the left, understanding high value challenges. That was one of the things our members told us that we had to do more of. And then we couldn't do a million things. You can see there's 3 arrows. There's a reason there's only 3 arrows coming out of that. They said maybe we could do 3 focus areas. Maybe that's all we could handle and really make progress on. And maybe 2, but it was the idea that maybe at one point we had arrows coming out of trying to understand problems in every direction. So we more or less focused on 3 major areas. Now there's some things in there in the tech center which we need to have funding for. One of them is a knowledge innovator lab, and the other is discovery teams. These are our words for missing pieces to what's tech pipeline, science and traditional science and technology work needs in order to match a better innovation profile of our ecosystem here in Wisconsin. And those are new things. I'm not going to go into those totally, but there's things that there's a reason why we picked 2 particular areas. One creates a new model for having people invest in the learning about developing knowledge around the key problems and getting paid back in different ways, primarily by new IP models and new equity investment models. And the second one, our discovery teams, very like that, where these teams actually can become pre-innovators, and they can actually storm and form and norm and find the important innovations. And the idea there is on the pipelines then become more effective, delivering inventions to companies, and they become more effective. Also, discovery teams delivering people and ideas that are of higher value to startup teams. It's a way of producing much higher hit rate of startups and also feeding companies traditional lines of working directly on their own projects. And with that, essentially, my little cartoon says you put money in, but you get a lot more out. More dollar signs come out. That's the reason you're doing it. There's a lot of nuances here that I could wax poetic on. There's a feedback loop between the companies and understanding the problems that include moving people back and forth. We can talk about that at a different time, but this redevelopment feedback of knowledge and people is one of the key things this model has. Now, we need investment. Why are we just doing this up at the top, understanding, and not doing the rest right now? We need some money in order to make this happen, in order to create some bigger programs. These programs we have. Second slide, last slide. Move the last slide, Emily. So those three lines you saw, you've heard a lot about, some of you have. Those three lines actually are three pipelines. And our tech centers, where we'd like to get some more investment, we propose three, essentially led by the state of Wisconsin. One is what we've been talking about the most this morning already, power tech, conversion of energy in order to get usable power. That is the first one that we recommended. We have met 4 times with the Navy. We've met with the universities. We've met with WEDC. Our plan is on March 9th, we're going to meet and give another presentation to the Navy. Now, this is a long play, but it's playing for a $10 million a year tech center, partially funded by the Navy and also funded by our new investment model for companies and venture capital. But power tech is the first one. It does more than just the Navy, but it uses the Navy's need right now for completely new power conversion technology to drive other developments in our grid, in our automotive sector, in different industries. Second one is systems intelligence. And the third one is scale tech, which is a new way of doing advanced manufacturing. We have 2 programs that were seeded into these. One is extreme power conversion. That's operating right now. It has a number of companies in M-WERC funding it. We're putting in the seeds for power tech, and it's been working very well. And we're beginning to see a whole new way of developing new power technology here in Wisconsin. Different time, we'll talk about that. We are actively working like crazy people right now to get a $9 million grant called Connected Milwaukee, which is from the Department of Energy. And another time you'll hear about that. We have about 2 weeks before we have to submit it. We got a 2-week reprieve. We all have been working a lot of hours, but that is would be the seed grant on which we would build IntelliTech, and that would be our systems intelligence. And then finally, we've got various smaller projects working around advanced manufacturing, trying to find the seed program for scale tech. Well, that's our new model. I think there's my story. I'm sticking to it. Anybody who's got any questions, I'd be happy to answer on anything, not just this, any question you have on just anything. But if you want to ask me a question about this, I'll do that.
You have to put it in the chat. But while we're taking a question and before we introduce Raphael and Steve, what I think people should know is, and you said it very clearly, I love the Aspirin model, but extreme power conversion, systems intelligence, advanced manufacturing, these are cross-cutting technology areas. So, you can only place your bets in certain areas, and we did a focus groups and research, and that is what industry told us. These are the 3 areas. And then the tech centers aren't just ours, they're the state, and all of you as partners play roles in that. So let me see if we got a question for you. I don't see one. Oh, Scott, battery storage is almost always the focus. I'm assuming this one is for you. Headlines, but do you see mechanical engineering, energy storage having a role in large scale utility scale storage for the future?
First of all, that's one of the primary ways we store energy today is mechanical inertia. Without mechanical inertia right now, that is to say the sizing of our generator rotors to support pulses, we couldn't run the power system. And we buy a lot of inertia. We don't buy a lot of mechanical storage. When you talk about rotating reserve, roughly 50% of the cost per megawatt that you have in rotating reserve is for the inertia you're buying. So first of all, it is there, it will be there. We're going to rotate machines to produce energy on the grid, and that will be for a while. Rotating mechanical storage will be with us. Secondly, if you're talking about flywheel storage and also compressed air storage, each one of those has a different, power density versus energy density profile. So each one of them has a particular spot. I do think there's a place because of the unique place in energy versus power they can deliver with mechanical, traditional mechanical storage, and also new mechanical storage such as large compressed air reserves and ultra high speed flywheels. In fact, in some power pulse applications the Navy uses now, they have chosen to use the flywheel approach as opposed to electrochemical energy storage.
I'm gonna jump in there because you just mentioned the flywheel, which is also another concept from good to great, which I love. I mean, M-WERC and this whole innovation, we need to become more of a flywheel in generating innovation and bringing research together and doing these things. So outcomes, more products, and then related to that is talent. So we need more talent in these areas for the companies that are here. So I'd like to welcome in, thank you, Bruce. You could put questions in there. You can stay with us, Bruce, but I'd like to welcome Rafael Santana from Eaton Corporation. And did we get your picture up? Yep, we did. And Steve Memory from A.O. Smith. And we're just going to talk about industry's role in all of this. And again, questions are welcome in the chat and we'll bring them in after. So my first question I'll address to Steve is just in general, what you heard from Maria and from Bruce and what you know about M-WERC and the region itself and where things are going. What are some of your reactions and insights to this discussion so far?
Thanks everyone. I hope you can hear me.
We can.
You can, good. As many of you probably know, I mean, A.O. Smith is a global leader in water technology, both water heating and water treatment. And, the region, I sort of look to other ecosystems that have been built up in the region. We've very successfully set up a great water hub infrastructure called the Water Council, which has ably demonstrated that Southeast Wisconsin can and has become an ecosystem in the water technology space. And businesses, universities, other groups get together to solve global water challenges. And this proves to me and A.O. Smith that the whole is definitely stronger than the individual parts. And this Water Council has international recognition and acclaim. So I see M-WERC sort of doing something in the EPC, something similar in the EPC space. We've got a large number of companies in the EPC sector in Southeast Wisconsin. So why not build up the ecosystem in this space as well? And that's definitely what M-WERC is trying to do. Maria talked about greenhouse gas emission reduction, decarbonization. I'm telling you now, this is not something we can do alone. We have to work on this together. We all have to come together. Bruce mentioned the Connected Communities DOE proposal. That's a good example of where we have to come together to try and solve some of these global issues. So I definitely see M-WERC's mission as being extremely important. If we can get this ecosystem, it will definitely increase opportunities for universities and businesses to promote innovation, identify research areas, create jobs, which is obviously key for everyone, attract capital within this area, and basically enhance regional economic growth overall. I sort of spoke to Elizabeth about this the other day. I always think of the research triangle in the Raleigh-Durham area, which we go to quite a lot, and I'd love to see Southeast Wisconsin become very similar to that research triangle. I mean, that's got a hell of a reputation, a hell of a name, and I don't see any reason with the universities we have in this region why we can't aspire to become a technology ecosystem like that. So. Absolutely.
And I think we're well on our way. We just don't really shout it out. But thank you, Steve. So for those of you who don't know, it's actually Dr. Memory. He was a professor as well. And A.O. Smith is A.O. Smith is a perfect example of the energy water nexus, correct? And we have a roadmap that you can find on our website for that. So Raphael, welcome. You could talk a little bit about yourself and then give some same reactions to what you've heard.
Absolutely. So Raphael Santana, I'm the firmware and software engineering manager globally for the industrial control divisions at Eaton Corporation. I think you also know Eaton, all right? We try to improve the quality of life and the environment through power system technologies and services. And there's quite a bit of stuff that we do, but just to focus in on this conversation, I think there's a few things that really resonated with me in the topics that were discussed earlier, and they all have to do with bringing the team together, coming together as a community to solve problems. Not one company really can solve all of the challenges we have ahead of us. The energy industry is in the middle of a pretty disruptive growth. All right, there's quite a bit of countries in the world that are expanding their energy consumption significantly at the same time. We have significant changes in innovation and goals that we have in the industry, right? And some of them were mentioned earlier. So certainly to really make a difference, right? We have to come together, and the type of initiatives that we've been talking about, I think it really sponsors the collaboration of different companies coming together along with universities really can make a difference in these initiatives and this innovation. The two examples there that were brought up, the Connected Milwaukee and the Navy Tech Center, are two areas that we are very excited about as Eaton. Trying to do that on our own would be very difficult. I think being able to do it with the help of M-WERC, that is kind of doing some of the heavy lifting, if you will, of bringing the pieces together and making sure that the companies are working together in the region. We, in this area, not only have great universities, but we have top 500 companies. I think it's one of the biggest areas with respect to having so many companies in the area. I think we can do a lot. And just like it was brought up earlier, it sounds, when I talk to, I would say my family, my friends, Milwaukee is not a name that resonates as strong as some other regions with respect to research and innovation in areas. I don't see why we can't make that happen. I do think we have all the pieces in place. It's just a matter of getting together and making that happen. So again, very excited to be part of this initiative.
Thank you for that challenge. And everybody listening, I'm sure absolutely agrees with you to change the name. I also know that Mark is on from Argonne Labs, and we have about 40 labs of the hundreds of them in the United States. 40 are in the Midwest, and they also are part of this ecosystem, and we work with them and we thank them. So thank you, Mark, and maybe throw a question or comment in the chat. So both of you talked about not going it alone. Can you talk, I'll go right back to you, Raphael, about how does your company make those decisions? How do you say, we're going to do it ourselves? No, we're going to look outside ourselves, whether it's an accelerator, a tech challenge, or pre-competitive research.
Yeah, so as a company, what I would say is we try to go through different routes, different strategies in parallel, right? So we have a research arm, the ERL, that works on research activities that are a longer place for the company. Then for the divisions themselves, then we have groups that work on research as well. But because the divisions were technically more in the execution kind of area, then what that allows us to do is, if we want to make an impact, we can amplify that impact by collaboration. So what we do is we work with, we look for universities, we look at collaborations like this ones that can help us amplify our impact if we have essentially a common interest and a common goal. So we certainly look for those opportunities. There's development opportunities, there's research opportunities. I think some of the examples that we've had recently work with M-WERC, right? With the tech challenges, we had some challenges we wanted to propose to the community, see if we had some great ideas that come from the community with respect to some of the challenges we're dealing with. We just don't have the bandwidth to tackle ourselves. In some cases, we just want to explore an area, learn a little bit more about a particular topic. And then in some other cases, we just want to make a bigger impact, right? So working with other companies in the area, sometimes through groups like this one, or sometimes we can reach out to them directly. But overall, we try to do a little bit of everything in parallel.
Awesome, thank you. How about you, Steve? I know you have a particular point of view on how you make decisions, when to collaborate, and smart partnerships and university.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, we have a dedicated research facility up in the northwest part of Milwaukee, right next to Menominee Falls, actually very close to Eaton.
It's gorgeous.
And just as an aside, when the pandemic's over, I welcome anyone to come, and I'll gladly give you a tour. It's a dedicated research facility where we have all our plants scattered around, obviously, the world, but this is the research facility for the corporation. So we do research globally. So this question is extremely important for us. So what determines whether we go and do it alone, and whether we go into a consortium, if you like, and that's morphed over the years as well. I mean, we're 147 years old. I don't know if some people recognize that as well. I saw Bruce's chart earlier, and he had us under 1910. I guess that was the actual technology, but we actually were, I think, founded in 1874. So we've clearly reinvented ourselves many times over in that 147 years. Bicycle car frames, gas pipelines, storage silos, motors, and now we are absolutely 100% water technologies, so water heating and water treatment. And so how do we decide whether to do it? In the past, clearly we worked in these sort of secret silos, as most companies did, and everyone did research sort of on their own and didn't really collaborate. The fear of collaboration with competitors was very real. So how do we decide today? Well, very much we look at it as, is it pre-competitive, or is it getting close to where we want to take that product into production? And really, we love to spend other people's money or leverage our own money if we can on the pre-competitive type of research. And so we love to use government contracts. We love to use California's throwing a lot of money around right now. We love to use these university industry collaborative research centers. And again, we use those a lot. We're involved in quite a few of those around the country. One of them actually at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign has 30 huge companies in there, many of which are our fierce competitors. But we feel comfortable there because the research is very, very much pre-competitive. And then another example, as Raphael said as well, I mean, these grant collaborations, this Connected Milwaukee, when that came out, there's no way we could have answered that request from DOE on our own. And it needed someone like M-WERC to bring that team together. And I think they've done a fantastic job. I'm very impressed with what they've done. As I said, we've got a 2-week reprieve to put the final proposal in, but we could never have done that on our own. And that's another sort of reason why we tend to sort of come into these collaborative types of projects.
Yes, thank you. Mariella and Bruce have been working on that. Bruce, come on into the conversation and talk about what Raphael and Steve are referring to. And particularly, we've heard from members talk about the multiplier effect, right, when you get together. Bruce, other comments?
I mean, I guess I was lucky in my career that I came from Wisconsin, but I worked around the world for a number of large companies, and probably mostly running big system engineering teams to pull together big projects of various types. But in doing so, I worked in a lot of collaboration systems around the world. Fraunhofer, the Leibniz Network, Indian Institute Technology Network, Research Park is really dominated, trying by RTI, Research Triangle Institute, which is a little bit of what I'd call the early version of my tech center. It's been incredibly beneficial to the entire community in North Carolina and in South Carolina as well, to be honestly, the whole southeastern community. So I've studied all of those, and I realized that what Steve and Raphael said has to be adapted to your ecosystem. And so there's this great opportunity for us acting together to find our formula, the one that works for our ecosystem. And as Steve said, our ecosystem is not exactly the Southeast or the Northwest or the two big, highly populated coastal areas. But we nonetheless have an incredible body of solutions for people. And the reason we have so many companies here is we produce solutions. So we have this big opportunity, and that's why we're aiming at this new model after studying about 3 other ones. And I would like us to, as a community, come together, if I had my choice now, and really focus on a few of these like we are now, and really focus on these. And we really have an opportunity at this point in time. Yes.
So jump on in, Raphael.
Yeah, so one of the things that came to mind as Bruce was talking here is old saying that says culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? So, you know, it's true for a corporation, but I think it's also true for a community, right? When we create the culture here of innovation, right, that will definitely drive that innovation, not only in the community, but in the companies that are in the area, right? We'll have also the opportunity to attract more talent. And ultimately, all of this innovation only happens if we have, you know, people, you know, behind the scenes making the innovations happen. So the talent is a critical element of innovation that we have to focus on in terms of growing. And in order to attract that talent to the area is creating that culture and maybe the marketing piece as well as making our area a place that people want to move into to be part of this innovation, to be part of this ecosystem that we're building.
Awesome, thank you. Again, put some comments in the chat. I saw one about diversity, and I'll just comment in our training program. It's at the front end of the funnel for talent, but it's expanding what I like, well, Jacqueline, she's listening. What Jacqueline runs is expanding the options for the people right here in our neighborhood, in our zip code, that there's choices to make to go into energy, power, and control. So everybody has their hand in that. So as I ask maybe 1 or 2 more wrap-up questions, everybody should be thinking about what can I do more of? And that's what we're going to talk about in our chat. So what else would you like us to know, Raphael, about this topic? And then I'll have a wrap-up for everybody. But first you.
Regarding specifically
centers, innovation, Eaton, yourself, challenges, yeah. What else?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think the piece that we've been hitting on is the thing that really comes to mind is the community element of things. There is a lot of innovation that is coming our way, right? There's sustainability challenges, digitization, decentralization, productivity, right? Industry 4.0. There's a lot of stuff going from many different directions, and we need to be able to keep up with that innovation. And in fact, you know, get in front of it, right? Leapfrog, you know, the other countries, other innovations, other companies in some cases. But overall, we just want to make sure we add value, right? We add value to the community, we add value to the world through services and technologies, right, associated with energy. And we're going to find challenges along the way. We're going to find challenges, and just a few that come to mind is, you know, cybersecurity is going to be a challenge. You know, being able to integrate the IT and OT space for us in the industrial controls is our challenges, and some of these challenges are not easy to solve. And then there's going to be regulation that follows that as well. So quite a bit of stuff in front of us. So it's a matter of how do we come together to be most effective, optimize our input into the community, into you know, adding value together. And I think that piece, the together, I think is a critical piece of the puzzle.
I love it. Optimize our input into the community. Steve, same question.
Yeah, I mean, the tech centers that Bruce spoke about, I mean, I'm very much of the opinion that a rising tide raises all boats, and you know, having these tech centers in Southeast Wisconsin will give us greater access to grant money. It will attract top talent, top researchers, top thinkers, greater startups. I mean, again, the whole is better than individuals, and I think I think M-WERC is really the glue that can help bring that together. Universities as well. I mean, they can get together, but I think M-WERC, as you know, with all the membership they have, is poised very well to help us do that.
Thank you. All right,
you have, just because I'm chairman of the board,
I was going to say that, but you know, that's right. We all need to work together on this, and I like to call them smart partnerships. So this question is for Raphael, Steve, and Bruce, if you can do it. Okay, and this is a warm up for everybody in the networking that's going to happen next. Finish this sentence in 1 or 2 words. Okay, we can grow and solidify our science and technology innovation ecosystem in Wisconsin by doing more what? Try to be behavioral. Don't just say collaboration.
It's the 1 or 2 words that got me there.
Okay. Well, I prepped you.
Yeah. So ultimately, you know, we need to invest in our region.
Okay.
And we need to attract talent to the region
Invest,
that will drive the
attract.
innovation.
Hopefully Kathy's on the call. I'm not sure, from Tech Hub. Invest and attract. Steve or Bruce?
Yeah, I'm going to say something a little controversial. Maybe.
Oh, we love controversy. Go ahead.
But I do wish, and it's more than 1 or 2 words. So the collaboration, I'm going to enhance that a little bit. I do wish there was a little bit better collaboration between some of our universities, technical colleges, and that I feel there's a little bit of a disconnect there, and I would like to see better collaboration and sort of less competition, I guess.
Okay. Well,
so
I refer to
a little controversial, I know, but
that's all right. The truth is good. But
I have
here's
to say one other thing.
Yeah.
I have to say one other thing. There's a reason why A.O. Smith does most of its research at universities outside of this region. And sometimes, you know, I find them a little hard to work with. So, you know, controversial maybe. We do work with them, but we could do more, I think.
Yeah, well, here, I put in the chat box, everybody. So the good news is all of our universities and colleges have come together in the last year or so, and they're working on it. So this is all positive. It's called the Higher Education Regional Alliance. Hopefully I spelled it correctly. You can look that up. And Bruce, last chance, 1 or 2 words. Is it possible?
Well, I'll use 4 one-words. Because I get to do that now because I'm semi-retired. But yeah,
yes,
I think everyone has hit on a few of the key ones. I mean, you know, it's the sort of idea to invest, collaborate, trust, and commit.
love it. So in order to trust people, I'll use that as my transition. And I'm glad. Thank you, Raphael. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Bruce, and stay with us. But in order to trust people, you actually got to know people. So you need to stick around for our networking. And basically what we're going to do before we're all going to be on Zoom, we're still on Zoom right now. We have 2 things going on. All right. So first up is we're going to get into groups. You're going to, Emily, can you put that slide up? It gives us